It's quite. Speedwell Cavern.
Yeah. Trying to take a picture of one, so it's not.
Hey, this is small.
Right guys, do you want to wait just here for me?
Sure.
Or do you want to sort the boats out?
Sure. So we are going into the cave. Can see you.
How about that? What is that?
In the camera?
It's, yeah.
Yeah. Oops.
Battery's dead. Unfortunately.
I'll do the video and we'll share it later on.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
Interesting that it's only two of us, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
But these are lots of people, even those ones leaving right now.
I know, it's strange, yeah. Yeah,
Ten of them or something, was it?
just me and you, yeah. Nobody else here. Yeah. Yeah, this is amazing, you know.
Alright then guys, trying to make your way down to the boat for me please.
Coming.
Water.
Alright then guys, do you want to take this bench just here for me? Face towards the archway. Exactly.
Not too much light there, is it?
I know, I'm talking with her.
Alright then guys, so before we set off today, just a quick bit of health and safety, nothing too major. Now as we're travelling through the tunnel, the boat will be crashing off against the sides quite a bit. It's nothing to worry about, but please make sure you keep your hands, any possessions inside this white raised lip. You really don't want to get your hands
Inside.
between the boat and the wall. And you can see behind me as well that the ceiling is not particularly high, hence your hard hat. Now this first 15 metres is actually the lowest part of the tour. After this it will get a little bit higher, but not by much. Any questions at all before we start?
It's okay film it?
Absolutely fine, yeah.
But I probably won't see much there.
Yeah, probably not too much, yeah. Right, then,
Looks
fellas.
quite dark.
I know, it's very dark.
I'm going into
Are we ready to go?
dark.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a dark place. Automatic. So let's see as much as we can see and then wow. This is something. Well, we're not gonna stop. Will we?
Oh, we won't be stopping at some points, yeah.
Check this out. Was this cave, was it handmade or?
So yeah, this was man-made. So what we're travelling through now, gentlemen, this is what remains of an 18th century lead mine. Now work started down here just shy of 250 years ago. Work started in 1771. Now, they only actually mined down here for 20 years until 1791. The reason being it was actually a financial disaster. Now, the North Staffordshire Mining Company that took over this place initially invested around £14,000 in this place, but over the 20 years it was in operation, they only got £3,000 of that back. They made a very heavy loss. Now, today that would be a loss of around £4.5 million.
That's a coal mine, you say?
Lead mine.
Lead mine.
Lead mine, yeah.
So they didn't
Now,
dig too much
the
of it.
reason it was such a financial disaster is there simply wasn't enough lead. Now, they were expecting this tunnel to be virtually made of lead. That wasn't the case. They actually only found 3 different veins of lead in the whole of this quarter-mile long tunnel. Now, the first vein of lead that they found down here, we're going to be seeing very soon on your left-hand side. I'll point it out once we get to it. Now, the first vein of lead we're about to see is called the Little Winster vein. And it's called the Little Winster vein. First of all, it is quite little. It's only about 1 metre tall, half a metre wide. It's a very narrow tunnel we're going to be seeing. And it got its name, the Little Winster vein, because it is far too narrow for a fully grown man to work down. So what they instead did, they employed a young boy by the name of Winster, and unfortunately for him, he started work down there on your left-hand side, aged just 7 years old. Goes about 37 metres back into the wall just there. That's where little Winster would have worked for between 10 and 14 hours a day. Now, while he was down there, he only had a very basic set of tools. All he would have had, a pickaxe in one hand, a shovel in the other, a bucket around his neck to collect any lead, and a candle in between his teeth to light his way. Not very pleasant stuff. And it was actually made worse by the fact that the candle wasn't even made out of wax. It was made of a cheap alternative to wax known as tallow. Not sure if you fellas have heard of tallow. Essentially what that is, it's a mixture of boiled down animal fat and fire ash. Not very nice stuff at all. It's actually quite poisonous. Now, obviously not very great conditions for little Winster down there, and his reward for working such long hours in such tough conditions was that he was earning 2 pence a week.
Well,
not very much at all.
A little bit different money back then, probably.
Yeah, it would have been worth around £5 today. Still not very much, but it would have been just about.
Was it always flooded?
So the water in here today, this is about 1.5 metres deep, but it wasn't always flooded. When the miners first started work, there was always a small amount of water to start with. There was only about 6 inches of water. But the miners themselves eventually decided to flood this place to about 1 metre deep, so they could run boats to move about the waste rock.
So that's why they flooded it.
Now, there is actually another boat down here today. The other boat is currently making their way back from the cavern towards the entrance, so this other boat is actually coming straight towards us.
Yeah, so how are we gonna pass?
Head-on crash here.
Not quite a head-on crash. What we're going to be doing, guys, to get out of their way, we're going to be going into a bit of a lay-by, a bit of a passing place called the Halfway House. Now, the Halfway House is going to be coming up on our right in just a couple of minutes, and it is known as the Halfway House not because of its location. It's only a third of the way down the tunnel. The miners decided to name it the Halfway House because that was the name of their favourite pub in Castleton. Now, they used to love a drink in the Halfway House. They drank there pretty much every evening after work. One evening while they were in the pub, they came across the local doctor, and the local doctor had a few too many himself, and he decided to tell them that alcohol was a cure to lead poisoning. Now that of course is not true, but he was a doctor, so the miners took his word for it, and as a result they started drinking all day every day on the job to try and cure this supposed lead poisoning. Now of course it wasn't actually helping at all, it was just giving them alcohol poisoning, and to make sure they could drink during the day, what the miners did, they used to steal alcohol from the pub and store it in this passing place coming up on your right hand side here. Now then, fellas, I can't quite see the other boat yet, so what we're going to have to do, we're just going to wait here for a couple of minutes until the other boat is close. Once I can see that they're close, we will be making our way into there.
Can you see that place? Alright, okay, so this is that place where they used to store their alcohol.
It is, yeah. So when I can see the other boat's close, guys, what I'm going to do, we're going to be pulling into there to get out of their way. You can see that the ceiling in there is quite low, so when we eventually do go in there, we'll do one up ahead. But in the meantime, we'll just wait out here until the other boat is quite close.
So it's longer, this tunnel actually is longer.
That tunnel back there, it doesn't go very far at all. I mean, it gets blocked up here, and then behind that, probably goes only about another 30 metres or so.
Do you know the date when this was dug out?
This would have been dug out probably between 1771 and 1791, sometime between them.
And it was done by hand.
So it was the basic, so the lead veins and sort of stuff like that. That was just axes and stuff.
Okay.
But the actual tunnel we're coming through, they used explosives as well.
You can hear them. That's interesting because when I was back in Poland, I was working for a year in a coal mine.
Yeah.
850 meters down.
Wow.
Like for a year. I survived a year and then I ran out of it. Because it was quite tough.
Yeah.
Not the work, but the conditions, the heat. And sometimes when I traveled this, how you call it, this elevator, 850 meters down, then I had to go by small train, so like for an hour, for example, to the place where we start, and then walk for half an hour from there. So when we were reaching this place where we were working, I was working as an electrician there with those combines. So when we were reaching this place, sometimes was like 40 degrees there, not too much oxygen. A lot of people working just in pants. You know, like completely sweated with the black because of cold and things like that. It's like, whoa.
So you have quite a lot of experience with mining.
A year, yeah. Completely different thing.
I was talking to a fella, I can't remember where he was from. It was either Poland or, I think it was Poland actually. Is there quite a famous salt mine in Poland?
Yes, Wieliczka. Called
That's
Wieliczka.
it, that's it. Yeah. He was showing me some pictures of it. It was really amazing.
They actually made it, for the tourists. So it looks like a small city down there.
I've only ever been to Poland once myself. I went to Krakow on a school trip. That was very interesting, yeah.
And flying there this Saturday for a few days.
Alright.
Krakow. That's good. Krakow is like a typical tourist place.
Yeah.
This is interesting. So it reminds me when I was there. The most interesting thing that in some places there was a lot of those shakings, like the whole structure was shaking.
Wow.
You know, like they call it tąpnięcia. Like basically the whole ground was moving a little bit, and we were hearing that, and sometimes like a dust coming from the ceiling. Wow. So the funny thing was that when I reached this place, when I had to spend like an hour or an hour and a half after going down to reach the place where I was working, I had this realization that and they had only like it was looking like a tram rails going around this tunnel just to support those rocks not to fall. So I had this realization that if something goes wrong there and it squashes or something happens, there is actually no way to run. Because it's like an hour by train to go to the place that they can pick you up. So there's no way actually to run. So that was quite weird. But the people working there, they didn't mind. You know, they were sitting when there was a break, like at 12 or something. Don't remember the time anymore, but we worked a few hours and there was a lunch break.
Yeah.
So they were sitting and eating, and I was eating, and sometimes I heard like the whole thing, you know, like shake and dust come. They didn't mind, and I was like, where to run? Should I run or should I do what? You know, like a young miner.
Wow, I bet that was interesting working there.
It was quite scary.
Yeah.
Then I got used to a little bit, but it's like a completely different world, you know, those undergrounds.
Yeah.
So I spent a year, then I said, no, I can't work there anymore.
Yeah, I bet.
It's tough. And the first shift that I was going by this train, because I went down, but we didn't go by this train many times. But the first time I went down and went by this train, those tracks, they are not very smooth, and it's just bouncing around, and you know, and it fell off the whole thing. We were going, everything was made out of metal, so it was very loud, a lot of noises, and at some point the whole train, you know, like derailed and fell on the side. I thought that if this is happening every shift, man, I went survive like 3 days here.
So what's coming out?
it's not that bad, not that cold actually. It's quite smooth. A lot of people went through it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite smooth.
It's limestone actually.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't believe me when I say it's limestone. It's a very solid rock considering it's limestone. You know, a lot of people, like you say, do think it is much more solid rock like granite or something like that. But actually, what this is, it's basically it's a limestone that has been almost fossilised. It's that old, and over time it's been compacted into various rocks and water bodies, and it has become incredibly solid.
Yeah. I bet you know you're going to be absolutely a task to carve these out.
Yeah, it would have been. So this tunnel, like I said, it is a quarter of a mile long, and it took them 7 years just to build this tunnel. Really slow going.
That we just missed. No problem. There was quite a lot of people there.
Yeah,
the other one. It's only this one is like only two of us.
It's been quite strange today. This is my third tour today, and none of them have had more than 3 people.
Yeah.
And then Ollie, who's just gone past, he's had 3 tours, and they've all had at least 10 people. So, what's it like, mate?
It must be an unlucky day.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
There's something there.
Alright then guys, we'll carry on making our way towards the cavern.
So that was roughly 1/3 of the way.
Yeah. So,
Halfway.
if you take a look on your right hand side for me here, fellas, you can see there's a bit of a gap in the wall, bit of an alcove just there. Now that is known as the bellows hole. That would have been the only ventilation down here, and all that would have consisted of, there would have just been 2 young boys in there, similar age to Winster, about 7 or 8 years old, with blacksmith's bellows, basically pumping air in either direction to try and give the miners an airflow. Obviously not the most effective method. And straight after that, either side of your heads just here, you can see that there is a bricked archway. Now that bricked archway is the second vein of lead that the miners found down here.
Oh.
That is called the Long Cliff vein. It's named after the hill we are currently making our way under. This is Long Cliff Hill. Now, that is by far the largest vein of lead that the miners found down here. That by itself accounted for 70% of the lead found in this tunnel. And back where our heads were under that archway, the vein does go up in 2 half-mile tunnels that both meet up at the surface. Now, having 2 big open holes to the surface was quite helpful for the miners to start with. It let natural sunlight in, it brightened the place up a bit, and they also used that to winch out any waste rock. Now, the problems began when we started doing tours down here, because any time it rained, it would come through those 2 holes and bring with it plenty of mud, rock and silt that would block up the water that we're on now. So they wouldn't be able to do tours until they cleared out the water again. Nowadays though, since we did block up that archway about 40 years ago, we have been able to do tours down this cavern every day of the year other than Christmas Day.
So the level of the water doesn't change here?
We do have methods such as pumping water in to keep it at 1.5 meters. We are also capable of draining it out, but the only problem is if we were to all of a sudden today drain out all of our water, it would break the banks of the rivers in Castleton. So we've got to be very careful with how much water we put in and how much water we take out. So we can control it, but we can't do everything, if you understand what I mean. Now, as I've alluded to, guys, this tunnel is man-made. It was made using explosives. And if you take a look just above your head, you can see the process just here. You can see every now and again there's these sort of semi-cylindrical grooves on the ceiling, these cuts in the wall, no more than about 4 or 5 inches apart. Now these are what remain of the blast holes down here. That's where the explosives would have gone. So basically the process started, 2 miners would come down here, one with a 15-pound sledgehammer sledgehammer and the other with a chisel. They turn the chisel round and smash it into the wall, like you can see with those blast holes here. Now it'd take between an hour and 2 hours just to make one of those blast holes, but they actually had to make 20 in an arch shape like the tunnel is before they could set off a blast. Now once they had all 20 blast holes together, they filled them all full of gunpowder, pack as much in as they possibly could, cap it off with a bit of clay, and then make a very cheap fuse out of straw. Now once that straw fuse was lit, they only had 30 seconds to get out of the way. So what the miners normally did, they ran straight back to the halfway house that we stopped in earlier. Now that worked to start with. They were getting there in plenty of time, and you could fit quite a few men and a lot of tools in the halfway house. There's quite a lot of space in there. Now the problems arose once they got further down this tunnel, because the further they got, the more difficult it was getting to run back to the halfway house. And by about this stage in the tunnel, a lot of miners were starting to get injured and even killed trying. So they decided that they had to come up with a plan. Now the miners came up with the idea of building a safety hole. They wanted to build a hole in the wall where they could hide from the blast. And they wanted it to be a similar size to the halfway house, quite a substantial amount of space. Now they went to their boss with this idea, and they asked him for 2 weeks of paid holiday using the mine's tools. The boss, however, wasn't so keen on this idea. He did not want to pay his workers unless they were trying to find him lead. So as an alternative, the boss actually only gave them 2 days of unpaid work, which they had to buy their own tools to build this thing. So of course it ended up being nowhere near as big as planned. Now we're going to be seeing this safety hole in just a moment on your left hand side. I'll point it out once we get to it. And you're going to have to bear in mind when you see this, that this safety hole you're about to see would have had to try and fit 5 fully grown men and their tools. You'll see just how difficult that is in a second.
And they had to build it like in the spare time.
Yeah. So this is the safety hole on your left hand side. Not much chance of fitting 5 men and their tools in there. Oh, very small. Now luckily for the miners, not long after they built that, they found the third and the final vein of lead down here. Now this third vein of lead that we're about to see is called the poor man's vein, because they only found 1 bucket's worth of lead in here. It was barely worth taking out the wall. The reason the miners did do so much work on it, they lied to their boss. They told him there was loads of lead in here, so that they were allowed to keep digging at it, and they made this third vein of lead into another safety hole. So that's the second safety hole there, a bit more roomy than the first one.
Seems like different world, isn't it?
Yeah.
200 years back, but completely different world.
Yeah, completely, yeah. Right then guys, so we are almost at the cavern now. In just a moment we're going to reach that platform at the end. First things first, once we reach that there will be a bit of a bang when we hit it, and then I'll be securing the boat and I'll tell you when it is safe to make your way off into the cavern. Now you can already hear there is quite a lot of running water in there today. We have been having a bit of rain recently. So while we are in the cavern, if I'm talking you through anything and you can't hear me, please ask me to repeat it and I'll be more than happy to. Right then guys, so there's going to be a bit of a bump in just a second.
So that's how you pump the water in.
So if you'd like to make your way to the front for me please. And if you want to step on here, hang on to that and you go to the side, that'll help you out.
Water is clear. Clear water.
Probably mixed with clay and rocks and everything. But that wasn't man-made anymore, was it? This piece.
No. This is naturally formed. So I'll talk you through it now if you like. So this is a map of the cave systems we're currently in. We've just come down this tunnel here on the boat, and we are now here. This is Speedwell Cavern. Now that is all of about 70 metres directly above your head, and another 130 metres to the surface. So where we are now, we are actually around 200 metres underground. Now this was formed over hundreds of thousands of years ago by two rivers. One came through the opening just above your head, and one came through the opening behind you up there. And once these rivers broke through, they came together and they formed a whirlpool that dug out this cavern. So this is all naturally formed by those rivers. Other than what we're stood on, this is a combination of waste rock that the miners used to make a bridge between the two tunnels, and a lot of concrete we've put on since to make it safe for the public. Now then guys, if I can draw your attention back up. If I can draw your attention back up to the left hand side there, you can see that there's some beams pushed into the wall. That is what remains of an old miner's ladder. They'd use that to climb to the top where you can see those two boulders, which are blocking up another 40-metre tunnel into the wall, very similar to the first vein of lead we saw. Now the miners did again find a small amount of lead in there, but not very much at all. Now if I can draw your attention back to the map, you can see carrying on from the cavern, there is another tunnel here. That is the Far Canal, and it is just behind you, behind the banister there. Now the Far Canal is about another 200 metres of man-made tunnel, until this point here, where the miners managed to break through into over 14 miles worth of natural cave system. And these were formed, you can see they've all got a level of water running through. That running water is what has formed those caves over, again, hundreds of thousands of years. And as you can tell by these fellas here, these caves down here are still quite frequently explored by cavers and potholers today. Now then guys, if I can turn your attention back up into that second opening there, right at the back, you can see hanging from the ceiling are stalactites. Now, they're not a very impressive collection. The longest of them is only about 60 centimetres long, but those up there are actually 14,000 years old. The reason they're not much to look at, they only grow 1.5 millimetres every 100 years. Your average stalactite sort of grows 10 centimetres every 100 years. Ours grows so much slower because we are very far underground, and there's a layer of volcanic rock above them that slows down the minerals in the rock. Now then guys, if you'd like to follow me over to the banister here. So just over here where you can see all that water going, if you take a look where the red light is here, the outline of our underground lake, our subterranean lake. Now that down there is called the bottomless pit. I'll be telling you about the pit on our way back. So I'll be telling you how the pit got its name, and I'll be telling you how deep it is on our journey back.
So they dig some of it and they found out the rest of the
Yeah, exactly that. Now we're going to be in the cavern here for another couple of minutes, so obviously feel free to take your pictures and take your videos, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask me.
When this whole water goes down, do you need to pump it out from there as well?
No, once it goes down there, there's a couple of siphon holes at the back of the pit. So any time that water gets too high, it just drains out into the cave system.
And how long have you doing this tours?
I've been working down here since September, so about 3 months now. Yeah, not too long.
You still enjoying it?
Yeah, I do enjoy it. Yeah.
There's 4 of those caves. That's one of them.
Sorry?
4 of those streets that we can take.
Yeah.
One of them. But they're all part of the same system.
So,
would you show me where those three are?
So basically where we are now, you can see the roads going across here, and then when it's passed will be up here. So we've come down, Castleton is over here.
And the shop will be on this side.
Yeah,
of the
exactly
road.
that, yeah. So Castleton, the village, is over here, so this right hand side of the map. And the other cavern, Peak Cavern, which is in Castleton. If you wanted to get from us to Peak Cavern's just here. So you can actually make your way down these tunnels and to Peak Cavern. The public aren't allowed to do that, of course. It's only cavers and people like that that do that. And then the other two caverns, Troop Cliff and Blue John, are over the other side of the road. So we're under Long Cliff Hill here, and over the other side is a hill called Mamtor, and the other caverns are way over near Mamtor.
And some people explore all of them.
Yeah, so we do have quite a lot of cavers that come down here. The main caver is a fella who's been here for a very long time. He used to work here back in the 70s. He's had a different job since, but it still comes down as a hobby. So normally what the cavers do is they come on the boat the same as you, and then once we got into here, the cavers would go down into the Far Canal, and then they'd go and explore all around the cave.
But not everything is flooded, isn't it?
It's all different levels. So like here you can see it's only ankle deep, and then sort of here you can see it's waist deep. So the water's at different levels in different parts of the cave.
The water temperature is normally very cold, is it?
Yeah, it is. The water temperature sort of averages out at about 3 degrees Celsius, so very cold.
Very salty.
So people wouldn't survive here for long.
No, not very long, no.
If someone would get lost here or something like that. And how does it work with those cavers? They need to be like a part of some
what the cavers do is, so they have to have the owner's permission first and foremost. Like at the end of the Far Canal here, there is a locked door. So if the cavers want to get in, they have to have the key. And then for us to allow them to go down, we normally have to make sure they've got various licenses and things like this to make sure they're qualified to do it. And the only other precaution they take is, so we do have a cave rescue team around here, so very similar to your sort of mountain rescue, people like that.
Like in Wales.
But what cave rescue do is once the cavers go down, they log in what time they're coming down here, and they tell us we're going to spend 4 or 5 hours down here today, and if they don't come back within the amount of time, then we automatically ring cave rescue.
So who owns this place?
This place is owned by the Harrison family. So my boss is Mr. John Harrison. I think it's technically still owned by his mother, but he's the managing director.
So it's the family which was basically digging this whole lake.
No, the family who own it now only took over in about 1930. But before then it was owned by various different mining companies.
Interesting thing. So I can imagine when they were digging and they couldn't find anything, they were not very happy.
No,
and when they found something, finally there was a celebration time.
Exactly, yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
And then digging again. So the working conditions changed since this time. Right now all the safety, leaflets in the workplaces, we can't do this and It was completely different.
Yeah. No, there wasn't much health and safety when they were mining down here. Alright,
I go for the climbing quite often around here, like Windadder and Buxton and basically Peak District and Wales as well in Snowdonia.
Yeah.
So I look at this cave and I kind of like the idea. But I don't know if I would want to spend some time in this 3 degrees water for long. Yeah. So how they travel if some of those?
So what the cavers normally do is they either go down in, so have you seen fishermen have waders? Sometimes they go down in waders and sometimes they go down in full dry suit.
Okay, so they wear something basically, stay warm.
Exactly, yeah. So are we ready to make our way back then, guys? So
another group is coming, isn't it?
Yeah, they're coming in just a moment. So what we're going to be doing, I'm going to turn the lights off before we go. And then on the way back here, it's going to be a little bit different. This time, I'm going to be at the other side of the boat, so I'm going to be with the motor. I'll hop on in just a second and I'll tell you when I'm ready for you to follow.
stay here and make a picnic. Huh?
I know, before, yeah.
This is looking cool, man. I'm recording all of it. I put this on the group page.
So we'll make our way back now.
That's what I like to do. Go for a ride, do something interesting,
Yes.
and then come back. So like I join some kind of exploration and bike riding as well.
I never knew about this place before. When you told me about it.
I just seen it on the website.
Alright.
Because once I was passing through
Yeah.
because of some reason and I seen this whole nice area here and I noticed, oh, there are some caves here, so let's
Yeah.
check it out. Is it possible to hit something on the way so this ball will stop like instantly? Or it always bounces only
It always
from
just
the...
bounces.
So there's no danger that we just hit something. Oh, we just hit.
On your phone. Yeah. There you go.
So you always meet with another group in the middle?
It depends how busy we are. If we're having a very quiet day, sometimes we only use one boat. But today we have been quite busy, so we've been using two boats.
And you can communicate always with this radio?
Yeah.
Do you know how fast they were digging? How much of this they were able to dig out, like every week or something?
They were basically, you can see the blast holes that are above us, they're never more than about, they're never very far apart. And to make 20 blast holes and set off a blast took an average of about 4 days. So in sort of 4 days they made one of those blasts, and the blast only got them about that far. So let's say they did manage to do 2 blasts in a week, you'd probably get about just
Meter,
something
something.
like that. Yeah.
So
it was really slow going.
very slow.
And this tunnel is a quarter of a mile long, but it took them 7 years to make, so it's very slow.
Very tedious work. So it
Yeah.
seems like this stone is quite tough actually.
It's very solid, yeah.
Very solid. Slow work. It reminds me this movie Escape from Alcatraz or something. When they were digging for a long time.
Yeah. Definitely.
So we're going to be meeting another boat in just a couple of minutes. It'll be the other boat going into the halfway house this time.
And we
Once
pass
we get to halfway, I'll see where they are, and then hopefully they're already waiting for us and we can just carry on past.
Those I've noticed that those cables from lighting they go into the water, isn't it?
They either go up into the wall or sort of down and then out.
Alright, okay.
We basically, I can't remember how long ago the lights were put in, but they're all put onto one circuit, and then we have various generators and backup generators that power them.
Yeah.
So it does sort of go down, and then they do all link up.
Alright. Interesting.
So when you were in Krakow, did you go to this Wieliczka, this salt mine?
No, we didn't. It was I had a bloke on one of my tours about a fortnight ago that was showing me that. But while I was in Krakow, I think we just had a walk around the city. Really, we didn't do too much. It was a history trip, so we were mainly there to go and see the Auschwitz Dachau camp. That's why we were there.
Are they in here?
Hey there, guys. We're having
More than us in there.
Sure. It's only us two.
So in a bit, guys.
And we're just passing through the river. What do you think if we go to the town and eat something?
I would have made a brew, yeah. I would have made a brew somewhere, yeah.
Something warm up. And
Yeah, more yeah, then come back, yeah, absolutely.
It's not a good feast compared.
Yeah.
Because we came here on motorbikes.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
quite freezing on the way.
Yeah.
But we've got heated grips, so this kept us alive. That was a sign.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard the bell upstairs earlier.
Uh-huh.
That tells the people upstairs
that
that
you're
we're on
coming
the way back.
And it's gone. Okay, hello.
Very low, yeah.
Alright then guys, so we're almost back at the start now. So watch your heads through this last bit. Once we get to the platform at the end, I'll be steering the boat. I'll tell you when it's safe to get off. And you've got those 106 steps to look forward to again. Please make sure you stick to the left hand side of the steps, because there might well be another group coming down.
Here we go.
So if you just want to sit tight for a second guys.
It's probably always the same temperature here, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's between 10 and 6 degrees here.
So you spend, wow. So during the summer you spend
Yeah.
time here and it's quite cold too.
So that's the boat secured, guys. Feel free to make your way off. Do hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, that was brilliant. Yeah, cheers for that.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Yes, I remember. You're going. Thank you. Not very high here, is it? That's quite a nice workout for you too, huh?
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you very much. Oh. Hold on. Hello. See you later. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was the Speedwell Cavern.